announced that it was a resounding victory for James Gyakye Quayson, who is returning to Parliament for sitting as representative for the Asin North constituency. Despite the decision of the Supreme Court to annul his 2020 electoral victory on grounds that he holds dual citizenship, James Gyakye Quayson, we know now, has been re-elected with a rather higher margin of votes that he won in the last elections, comparing that to now. Of course, the victor of this election, by-election within the Asin North constituency, says his victory is a verdict of the level of confidence his followers have reposed in him. Listen.
I've always been happy. Tonight is exceptional because Asin North people have vindicated every court and myself. And they still believe in me, so that makes me happy.
What does this victory mean to you personally? Are there lessons to be shared to the whole world?
Well, I mean, principles and values I work with, and I don't quit easily. So long as I know the cause I'm leading is genuine and it benefits other people. You see, you haven't been in a situation where you have to sacrifice your own life interest for the benefit of others. Until you are there, you will not understand it. Somehow you get an inspiration and you become fearless because you are standing for the truth, you are standing for justice, you're standing for almost everything that benefits other people other than yourself. That is why we have people like the Kwame Nkrumahs and we have people like the Mandelas. All right? Otherwise, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to be in that position sometimes. So I'm very...
What do you tell the people of Asin North for what they have done, the victory they have given you?
Well, the victory belongs to them. The victory belongs to Ghana. And the victory belongs to rule of law, justice.
Are you daunted by the fact that you'll be going to court very soon?
No. That's the least of my thought. I'm focused on how I can get Asin North developed. The court can take its own course. I mean, as I said earlier, I have not committed any wrong to worry about what is ahead of in legal terms. No.
Well, so we're asking that question. What's been the overall assessment of the electoral process yesterday? Well, we're getting some answers on that because the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers are describing the Asin North by-election as largely, quote, peaceful, which was fully concluded after the winning candidate was declared. Kodeo acknowledges that the conduct of the polls was consistent with the general rules and regulations which was adhered to by the polling officials. That's contained in the latest document that Kodeo has released to the press. I want to bring in now Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Gyakye Quayson, who's been looking at the details of the concerns being raised by Kodeo. Kuku, we know that they're lauding the Electoral Commission and also the Ghana Police Service for organizing what they describe as a peaceful poll. But there are concerns about some blots on the electoral process. So first off, let's get to the reasons surrounding why they're assessing this as largely peaceful, and then we'll get to the concerns Kodeo is raising.
The disruption of polls, some of these isolated incidents were all largely dealt with by the police swiftly. They talk about the Electoral Commission and how they were able to distribute materials to the various the polling areas. They say that was largely spot on. So they've given a thumbs up to the Electoral Commission and the Ghana Police Service for being able to manage and organize this process in a way that was reminiscent of Ghana's democratic credentials. But then they go ahead to talk about a few blots like you discussed. They talk about intimidation of our colleague journalists at Adom TV. They say that at about 7:20 a.m. at Methodist Primary School 2 in Breku, a journalist from Adom TV was interviewing electorates and he was confronted by a reported executive of the NPP for conducting that interview. Again, the police intervened and the matter was swiftly dealt with. They talk about the violation of voting procedure. They also cite the instance at Methodist Primary School 2 in Breku, where 2 electorates were apprehended by the police for taking a snapshot of their ballot paper after voting. That was also an incident that was seemingly seeking to mar the smooth process of the election. The police dealt with that as well. And they also report about a violent clash. They say that about 1 p.m., a convoy of vehicles with NPP occupants, accompanied by the Ashanti regional chairman of the NPP, a chairman owned to me, pursued a vehicle occupied by NDC supporters from a different polling station to in Praso. And during this pursuit, the occupants of the NPP vehicles proceeded to vandalize and damage parts of the NDC vehicle, resulting in commotion and disturbance alongside the roadside.
Right.
But the police intervened to calm the situation. So these are some of the incidents that thought it was going to mar the process, but generally, Kodai has given it a clean bill of health.
Is there any key recommendation going forward? Because this is just a precursor to the major electoral exercise that will happen next year. We're having both parliamentary and presidential elections. What's Kodai saying about the future?
So Kodai really believes that this election should serve as a blueprint for the 2024 general election in terms of how distribution of materials were done, the policing at the various polling stations were done. They believe that these were done really well and must serve as the blueprint going into the 2024 election.
Okay. You're also in Parliament, and just last week we were talking about that spectacle. Almost all MPs leaving the House just to monitor what's going on in Asin North. We're setting to have business resume in the next 24 hours. From your sources, are you picking up if James Gyakye Quayson will be officially sworn in tomorrow by the Speaker of the House? Because there's a lot to be done. I mean, considering the number of bills before the House, the critical one on the anti-gay bill, which has been suspended until tomorrow. What are we likely to see? James Gyakye Quayson returning to Parliament tomorrow?
So, according to my sources within Parliament, the institution is ready to swear in Gyakye Quayson, but it's a certain process which may delay the process. That is, the Electoral Commission would have to send to Parliament the instrument of the election, confirming that James Gyakye Quayson has been elected so that Parliament can proceed to swear them in. And so the expectation is that if the Electoral Commission is able to quicken that process, send the necessary documents to Parliament by Thursday morning, by Thursday, a few hours after that, they will be able to swear in Gyakye Quayson. So all that is on the Electoral Commission. The indication we are getting is that this is not such an elaborate process, and that the Electoral Commission can work on this as soon as tomorrow morning. It's just like a letter to the Speaker of Parliament confirming that this election has taken place. But for the reason that today is a holiday, that process would have been completed by now. Because today is a holiday, we expect that the EC may do that tomorrow morning,
right,
hand that over to Parliament. And so, if for nothing at all, if not tomorrow, by Friday, Gyakye Quayson is expected to be sworn in the second time to continue his work in Parliament.
We're on the lookout for that sharply divided House, but we'll keep following that for you. Quayson will be there in Parliament to get you the very latest, my colleague here at Joy News. So what's accounting for those 57% plus votes that James Gyakye Quayson is getting, over a 7,000 margin in an election fiercely contested? And what's the science behind all of this? At the time, of course, when predictions were rife that the elections were up for grab for the NPP's candidate. I want to bring in Musa Dankwa, who's Executive Director for Global Info Analytics. And Musa, just last week we were discussing your prediction that there were about 6% of the voter population that were not decided, of course, at the time. They did not tell you where their votes were going to lie. Is that why we're experiencing this margin of victory for James Quayson?
All right, thank you very much for having me. I think there are two sources of his margin entirely to his side. And then we had people who may have said they intended to vote for Charles Okonkwo. That actually didn't mean it. They went to the polls and voted for Charles Gyakye Quayson. So you could see that the final poll compared to the
Musa Dankwa, it appears we're not getting the point you're making. I was just asking about the 57.6 at 56% margin. Yes, we lost you briefly. If you could just take that point for us again.
Okay. It will take what Charles got in the opinion poll, the last opinion poll, 45, and you add the roughly 7% rate. It will still less than the 5.7 that he got. So where did the extra percentages come from? It came from Charles. Because Charles lost ground. We saw that he was losing ground on a daily basis. So what happened was that people who said they were going didn't actually go and vote for James Gyakye Quayson.
So what you mean to say is that the voters changed their mind at some point? Okay, we seem to be having some challenge, but Global Info Analytics at the time had decided to do a poll about this whole elections, predicting that James Quayson was following second to Charles Opoku. But then, of course, as we're seeing now, 57.56 is the margin of victory for James Gyakye Quayson. We'll get back to Musa Dankwa later on, but we know that the woes of the newly elected James Gyakye Quayson is far from over, as he's expected to appear in court over charges of perjury. James Quayson was indicted by the Supreme Court earlier for holding dual citizenship, first as a Ghanaian and then as Canadian, which could not allow him per the law to continue to hold himself out as Member of Parliament for Asin North. But this afternoon, there's a call from Ghanaians, especially those living in diaspora. Of course, they say that it's time to change and review our laws. Before we get to that, what's the rationale behind our laws that prevents dual citizens from holding this current political office that we're talking about as a Member of Parliament? Let's listen to US-based lawyer, Professor Kukwasari, who's been explaining to Samson Ladieni on the law about the rationale going into citizenship and the controversial issue of allegiance. Listen.
To another country other than Ghana is a term of art. It is not citizen. Otherwise, I've demonstrated that when the lawmaker wants to say citizen of another country, they know how to say it. So if they have not said a citizen of another country, just forcing allegiance to another country to be citizen of another country is just emotional law. It's not law as we are taught, and it's not law as it should be practiced. And I've given several cases.
Your position, you fortify your position by the fact also that you can owe allegiance and not be a citizen.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there are non-citizen-based allegiance.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And the biggest and the easiest way to understand this argument is that Article 94(2)(a) was there when we didn't even have dual citizens. So what did it mean when we didn't have dual citizens? Did it have no meaning?
Okay.
I mean, the Supreme Court is saying it was meaningless when we didn't have dual citizens, but that cannot be correct because that clause has been in the 1969 Constitution, has been in the 1979 Constitution, and both the 1969 and the 1979 Constitution did not allow dual citizenship.
Okay, so that's the position. And why must we change the laws? If indeed you want to serve, why not hold a Ghanaian passport only, just to show that you're indeed owing all of your allegiance to one state, which is Ghana? But the diaspora is wading in. I want to bring in some of our citizens living elsewhere. Charles Bodo is a businessman. He's joining us from Maryland in the United States of America. We also have Benjamin Kwashi joining us from South Africa. There's a number of individuals also joining us this afternoon. Richmond Aholu is a Ghanaian living in Australia, and Dr. Bauer is with the New Patriotic Party's China branch. He is here in Ghana, so he'll be joining us as well to have a conversation around this. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Let's start off with you, Mr. Poto. The issue about why we are here today and why James Gyakye Quayson appears to be facing this challenge. For you, why is there an urgent need for us to change the laws, first of all?
Good evening, gentlemen, and to your listeners. In fact, when you look at all these things going on, you begin to understand the fear that people are entertaining when they insist that citizens of Ghana who have taken citizens in other countries for the benefit of themselves and to their families and the country at large should be removed or excused from exercising that citizenship spirit that they had. That is not taken away just because you hold a certificate from another country that you are a citizen of that country. Now, to tell you the truth, there are benefits that accrue from being a citizen of one country and living in another country. The advantages are there clear. So the question is, why do you have to say somebody is a dual citizen? What is a citizenship? If you're a citizen of one place, why would you be precluded or removed from any activity that benefit the country where you belong to as a citizen and yourself and your family? So when you look at all these things, for example, recently, the president of Sierra Leone, the one that is currently re-elected.
Well, he's been re-elected.
6 months ago, yes, Bill, has made it clear that those who are citizens of Sierra Leone living elsewhere who have dual citizenship can participate in political affairs of the country. Why? Because of the benefit that the country will derive. About 49% of all countries allow dual citizenship in Africa. Now, these countries have allowed this because they know the potential or the benefit that the country will gain by using the talents that these people have acquired abroad. Why would you deprive yourself of such a talent? Now, let me ask the country this question. If, for example, your brother living in Canada or in the US or anywhere outside Ghana, when he comes home, do you put him aside that he doesn't belong to the family because he has traveled and he's now no longer part of the family? But you allow him to come in, and moreover, what I know is that most of the time they even lead because they say they have more experience because they have learned from other people and they can bring that knowledge together to help the family. Why can't we do the same in Ghana? Why is it different? So for me, it is very perplexing. Now, if you look at how much those in the diaspora bring to the economy, per our gross domestic our income, it's about 7.4. Ghana ranked the second highest in terms of what? Remittances that come abroad after Nigeria. So the question is that the contribution of those in diaspora, why should that be diminished? What are we afraid of? Look, I don't want to bring myself into this picture, but let me bring myself into it for 1 second. The many years that I have lived in the United States and have run business for over 15 years as an employer, that experience, money cannot buy. No education can buy that. So if I want to bring that knowledge to Ghana to help the country, why should that become a problem? This is my problem with it. And I think the country needs to take another look at it and reset. This is what I can say for now.
But should it just be about money or finances?
No. There are many things that the country can gain by allowing their citizens abroad to come and help, education-wise. Now, how many people have the opportunity to go to Harvard, to go to other universities abroad? Not a lot. And most people, look, like countries like China, when people come here, they come here to recruit them and send them back home to contribute. People like in Israel, Americans don't have problem. They don't even doubt the fact that because this person is an American citizen and he have a dual citizenship in Israel, there is that suspicion. No, allegiance. There are so many Ghanaians who are not citizens of any other country, have own more allegiance to those countries and have cheated us or cheated Ghana from things that should come to the country. What about that? So what is the fear? What is the problem? It's not only about money.
Right. Is Richmond Aholu also here with us? Because I want to pick some other thoughts. Okay, let's hear from Benjamin Kwashe, who's also joining us. Ben, are you there? Richmond, if you can hear me, you're joining us from Australia. And of course, you're a Ghanaian there. Your experiences matter. You've seen what's happening as far as this whole James Gyakye Quayson conversation is concerned. What's your perspective on whether or not we should be relaxing our laws or otherwise on this whole dual nationality issue? Yes, we're having some challenges with Richmond there. But Charles, just as we wait for the others to join, it appears we're having some challenge there. The incident that occurred, and of course we've seen that conversation come up about James Gyakye Quayson. He spent, in this case, for instance, over 40 years, as we're being told, we don't know what the official record is, in Canada, elsewhere. The values and his system, I mean, he must have built his life entirely elsewhere. So the question is, if you really want to develop this nation, why not stay here for a while, know our system and what, of course, your people will need, so you don't feel detached from the reality? What's your take on that?
Thank you for bringing me in to speak again one more time. Now, the longer somebody lives abroad does not detach him from reality. This person has been dealing with his family, making visits back and forth. I mean, it doesn't take that person away from the responsibility that he is supposed to face when he represents the people. But the added value that he has gotten, learning from other people, it is a value that no money can buy. And that is the value that he's bringing to the country. So you don't have to live in Ghana to know more about Ghana. But I'm not going to diminish the presence of a person in a country to have that personal attachment. That is also important. But the question is that, is this person qualified? Is this person the right person to represent the people? And if the people say yes, who are we to say that he is not one of us? When the person is a Ghanaian first and has taken advantage of other person's citizenship. Now, let me say this to you and to your audience. Believe me, if you appoint someone, let's say Quayson is in Canada and he's been appointed as an ambassador over there, is it not better? By the time you take somebody from Ghana, send him to Canada, let him settle down, trying to find his feet, the country is losing. The Canadian government will be happier dealing with him as an ambassador on behalf of Ghana, making deals for the country, than a newer person. You see, this is where the cultural benefit, we are losing it. The cultural benefit, we are losing that. So if you bring somebody from the United States to come to Ghana, he has seen things. Most people can say, oh, I've been to America to go to school, I've been to Canada to go to school. Going to school in Canada is different from living in Canada or in the United States as a person.
Right. Because
the experiences of what you have to do to survive in those places, coupled with the knowledge of what you have gained, is different. So when you walk into a place like Ghana or any other country in Africa, you can identify potential immediately by seeing them and say, hey, this is what I would do.
Okay, let's bring in Richmond, because Richmond is joining us from Australia. Richmond, the point about citizenship, allegiance, and just as we see that playing out in the case of James Gyakye Quayson, your take?
Well, first of all, I'll start with saying who has been in politics or been influential in the Ghanaian politics without being overseas or having allegiance to another country, name it. Nana Akufo-Addo himself has been a British citizen. Bawumia, on the other hand, had studied he had studied somewhere outside the country, coming down from whoever, the Nkrumah era to the Buzia era. We've had, countless amount of politicians who have studied overseas. What knowledge did they bring as against the people that were in Ghana in the city, for instance? They had much more, open knowledge. They had been exposed to, democracy in itself overseas, and therefore had ample knowledge about what the word democracy actually meant and politics in itself. So, being overseas was one advantage. Having allegiance to another country is another thing, if we have to look at it from that perspective. But then again, what are the laws of Ghana saying about who a Ghanaian is? If somebody naturalizes or somebody has gone through the processes of being a Ghanaian, then that qualifies the person.
Okay, so what then? What?
And they don't necessarily have to be a Ghanaian born.
Yes, but why is there growing interest, as we've seen? It's not like it's never been the case before. You have referred, for instance, to the president who's lived elsewhere, but this is a matter of citizenship, where some of them go to the extent of saying, well, I want to be part of that society. So why come back again?
Well, I mean, like the previous speaker said, citizenship could just be a matter of us having convenience, being wherever we are. So if I'm in Australia and, for instance, I'm an Australian Ghanaian, it just gives me the advantages of being in Australia. It doesn't really necessarily mean that I've denounced my country, so to speak. If I'm here and I'm a citizen of Australia, and it gives me the best advantage to be here, it is what it is. But if I'm in Ghana and I think I should be in Ghana and it gives me, or I should be a Ghanaian, it gives me the best advantage to be a Ghanaian, it is what it is. So does it really matter? I don't think so, because the Constitution allows for somebody who is not even a Ghanaian-born person to be a Ghanaian. So are we. Does it really matter? Should be the question that we should be asking, rather than whether it is an advantage or it is a disadvantage of somebody being a citizen of another country.
Does this issue that's coming up as to whether or not it makes it easier for you in the diaspora to obtain citizenship just for convenience, that has come up. Let's find out if Dr. Bauer Mbagi is also with us. He's with the New Patriotic Party's China wing. We'll get him for you shortly. Okay, we'll get Dr. Bauer for you shortly. But Richmond, the point about convenience. You are in Australia, for instance. The issue about convenience, how is it like for you normally?
Well, it gives you a competitive advantage, right? So you are able to compete on the Australian market just as an Australian would be. It gives you all the benefits of being an Australian, because you're a tax-paying Australian, you are a law-abiding Australian, and therefore, why not? Why can't you have the privileges that an Australian have? You know what I mean? Yeah, same as it would be if I was a Ghanaian and I was a law-abiding Ghanaian Australian. If I was an Australian originally and I've lived in Ghana long enough, why should someone or the law prevent me from, having full advantage to the Ghanaian market, for instance, or the Ghanaian business environment, for instance? It is what it is. It's not. I mean, let's go back to asking the question: why do we go overseas to study? Within the political elite in Ghana, everyone has one form or the other, cherish the ability to be able to go to a foreign country to study, adding some credentials to their profile or their portfolio. So why is it wrong? That's the question I would ask.
Okay, and for you, Mr. Potter, the experience in the US, for instance, let's compare that to what's happening in Ghana. What are some of the benefits you can point to, if indeed we allow and ease the laws to have more of our dual citizens come up to take a position here?
You can be a lawful resident. At the same time, people aspire to become a citizen. Why? The benefits are there. It expedites you bringing your family to join you in the United States. That's one reason why people do it mostly. Some people want to do certain jobs that require high security. You can only become a citizen of the United States. Even they don't know that you are from a different country, your passport that you hold as an American citizen still have Ghana in it, that you're from Ghana, because you were not born in the United States. You see, but they'll trust you and give you security clearances to do government jobs. Now, the country that you're actually born in is denying you and afraid of you. For what? Now, let me say this. I would say the year of the return, to me, looking right now back, it's a fast. Why? If you are encouraging those that have left their ancestors have left the shores of Africa, not of their own willing, you're asking them to return back home. You do whatever, And then now the man or woman who was born, bred, left the shores of Ghana in search of greener pastures to develop Ghana. to develop the individuals that rely on them. He wants to come back and contribute. You say no.
Is that always the case? For instance, take a look at yourself. Of course, you're a business executive. You're making it out there. And probably as a retirement package, quote and unquote, you may want to come back here and just retire after making it elsewhere. So it's about your personal gains, isn't it?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because money is not all that it is. There are people who really, really love their country, Ghana, and they want to come back and contribute. When we see things that is going on in Ghana, we wish we are there to help. So when we decide to come and help, you see, there is one thing. Even the individuals in Ghana, some of them will say, "To know," just because you are bringing new ideas. To know, that's the word. Say, "Oh, you are to know," because you think you are from America, you think you are from Canada, you think you are from Australia, you think you are from abroad. That attitude has gone right into the legislation, has gone right into this issue that we are discussing now, that Ghanaians are being deprived just because they have decided to take a different path from the rest of the people. And they are now willing to come back. Now they will say, go and denounce. So let's assume that Quayson is now going to be appointed as an ambassador to Canada because he has been in Canada for many, many years. Now, how do you think the Canadian government will feel? You have renounced our citizenship. Now you come to represent your country. Now you want to deal with us? These are all some of the things you have to. The cultural benefit, we are losing it. The cultural benefit, we are losing it big time. If Ghana is going to go places, then Ghana have to allow the people with the expertise who have left the shores, who have acquired knowledge that will help improve the lives of the people. Do not deprive them. Do not put stumbling block on their way. Allow them to flourish so that they can help the country. If the people choose them, then that's it. So the changes have to come. If not, the year of the return is a farce.
Gentlemen, for joining us. We're taking a break. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining the conversation. This is the